here, raise your hand, if you saw neither the solar eclipse nor the northern lights this year. Well, that's disappointingly few. If it makes the few of you feel any better, neither did I, but we are going to be okay. And now I'm going to tell you why. This is the wormhole on the island of Innismore off the coast of Ireland. It is a naturally formed, eerily rectangular pool, a blowhole for the ocean that fills it through underground channels. I hiked there this summer with my family through a landscape of limestone rocks and jagged cliffs until, following an arrow painted on rock, we came to this incredible sight. Standing there with the few other people who had made it, I saw a man appear on the high cliff over the pool, preparing to jump. God, don't, I thought, with a stab of fear, but then he was airborne, hit the water, and disappeared. 1 second passed, 2, 3, and then finally his head broke the surface and he shook the water out of his hair, laughing. We all, the strangers and my family, standing there, staring, together began to cheer. We celebrated this synergy of human courage and the power of the natural world with pure collective joy. Afterwards, I asked my younger daughter what she was feeling. Gratitude, she said. I felt it too. This was awe. Not just an emotion, but a life-changing experience. The science of awe is only 20 years old, but it has come far. We know how to define awe. We know how to identify its triggers. We can reproduce it experimentally, and we have begun to understand its capacity to change us. In the next 17 minutes, I'm going to share that science with you. What is awe? In 2003, psychologists Keltner and Haidt gave us the scientific definition of awe. Awe is the feeling of being in the presence of something that transcends our current understanding of the world. They described 2 key elements: perceived vastness and the need for accommodation. Vastness refers to anything as experienced as much larger than the self. It can be physical, like this overhanging cliff, or it can be conceptual, like the boundlessness of love for a newborn child. What does need for accommodation mean? We organize what we know into mental structures called schema that help us understand ourselves and the world around us. New experiences that don't fit into that schema require accommodation, restructuring of our ideas. Awe makes us change the way we think, and that is part of its magic. What triggers awe? Dasher Keltner, in his book Awe, which I highly recommend, described the wonders of the world that can trigger awe, many of which we will experience together today. They include nature, observing the extraordinary kindness, courage, generosity, strength, or resilience of others, spirituality, music, visual design or art, dance, collective movement or experience, birth, death, and epiphany, a sudden life-changing insight or awakening. What does awe do to the body and brain? How does awe change human physiology, and how are those changes studied? In order to study awe, it has to be elicited, caused. This can be done with images like this photo of towering trees. Video clips are also used, yes, of sweeping natural scenes, but also of extraordinary acts of human courage or generosity. Autobiographical recall is another method where people are asked to remember a situation in which they felt awe, and tell or write about it. People can actually be taken to awe-inspiring places like the California redwoods, and sometimes audio clips are used. Do these artificial experimental awe stimuli work? Yes, they do. How do we know? 3 ways. First, experimental awe is distinct. It causes a distinct psychological state, different from negative emotions like fear and positive emotions like happiness. Second, experimental awe causes outcomes. It changes how we think, feel, and behave. Finally, experimental awe is disruptive. It fundamentally transforms the way we view ourselves and the world. How does awe change us? Awe has instantaneous, lasting, and profound effects on human psychology, physiology, and behavior. I will talk about all of these today. First, awe makes us feel small in relationship to the universe. It quiets a circuit in the brain called the default mode network. It changes our perception of time. It alters the activity of the autonomic nervous system. It is associated with decreased inflammation and changes hormone levels. Experiences of awe increase well-being and alleviate loneliness, depression, anxiety, and the effects of trauma. Awe increases connectedness to others and oneness with the world around us. Awe has a positive social effect, increasing empathy, ethical behaviors, and acts of kindness and generosity. How does awe do all this? The key to awe is the small self. Awe makes us feel small in relationship to the world around us. How is the small self measured? There are several ways. First, scientists can use questionnaires. They might ask people to rate the accuracy of statements like, "I feel in the presence of something greater than myself." Figures and drawings can also be used. For example, on the left, participants are asked to choose which size circle represents them. And on the right, people are asked to draw a picture of themselves in relationship to a drawing of the sun. People who have recently been shown pictures of the great awe-inspiring Yosemite National Park draw themselves smaller, choose a smaller circle, and report more feelings of smallness. This, don't get scared, I know it's neurology, this is the default mode network. It's a circuit of brain regions that together are important in functions that include self-focus, introspection, rumination. The default mode network, or DMN, helps us process information in a self-centered way. However, when self-centered functions go too far, they can lead to negative thought patterns, self-criticism, loneliness, anxiety, and depression. Experimental experiences of awe decrease activity of this default mode network. Awe literally gets you out of your head and into the world. Awe alters our perception of time. Here comes another questionnaire. Who in the audience always have enough time to get everything done? Oh, now, I was afraid there would be someone. You are meeting me outside afterwards. I'm going to give you my to-do list. Everyone look at that person, please, because she's very, very useful to us. Okay. Most of us, except this one person, are starved for time. Awe is the antidote to that feeling of time starvation. Awe makes time feel plentiful. And during awe experiences, time seems to expand, and people report they have plenty of time to get things done, and that stimuli, experimental stimuli, last longer than they actually do. The autonomic nervous system. The autonomic nervous system controls involuntary body functions like heart rate, blood pressure, sweating, muscle tension. There are 2 opposing parts. The sympathetic system controls the fight or flight response, responding to danger or stress. The parasympathetic system turns on when the danger has passed, restoring and relieving those stress-induced changes. Physiological measurements taken during awe experiments show that awe increases parasympathetic function and decreases sympathetic function. Awe, by letting parasympathetic tone dominate, allows the body to rest, recover, and repair itself. Inflammatory cytokines, a lot of big words today. Inflammatory cytokines like IL-6 are molecules that promote inflammation. They are important and useful in responding to infection or injury, like this hand fracture. But when inflammation goes too far or lasts too long, it can actually cause illness. People who experience awe have lower levels of IL-6, which means less inflammation. Awe also affects hormones. Oxytocin. People who experience a specific kind of awe that is elicited by witnessing the extraordinary courage, kindness, or generosity of others have higher levels of oxytocin. This is also the hormone that is responsible or is active during breastfeeding and labor, bonding, social connection, trust, attachment, and romantic love. When we witness acts of extraordinary, awe-inspiring kindness, we may be inspired because of the hormone oxytocin to extend kindness and generosity to those around us. Awe also changes how we act. Awe, by making us feel small and less important, and also by making us feel like we have plenty of time, encourages positive social or pro-social behaviors. These include empathy, cooperation, generosity, willingness to give our time to help others, altruism, and ethical decision-making. How are these effects studied? I'll give you a couple of examples. Cooperation. People who gaze up at towering trees are more likely to help an examiner pick up a bunch of dropped pens. I tried this at home with a teenager and it really worked. So you actually might want to use it for cleaning up. Second, ethical decision-making. People who recall a natural experience of awe are less likely to keep money mailed to them by mistake for a survey they did not complete. That's pretty good, right? Okay. All right. Viewing the Earth from space is one of the most awe-inspiring experiences imaginable. It's called the overview effect. Astronaut Edgar Mitchell described it as an overwhelming sense of oneness and connectedness, an epiphany. This is the ultimate self-transcendent experience. What is going on in the brain? One more scary slide. It's going to get better after this, I promise. Okay, there are two key elements in the self-transcendent experience. The first is dissolving of the self, and the second is a sense of oneness with the outside world and connectedness with others. Awe is a self-transcendent emotion. It decreases our sense of our physical selves, and it erases the feeling that we're separate from the environment. The parietal lobe, shown here, is our brain's GPS. It creates a spatial map of us in relationship to the outside world and everything in it. Imaging studies of the parietal lobe give us insight into what is going on in the brain during becoming one with the universe. Meditation practitioners during moments of peak unity and nuns during contemplation of the divine have decreased parietal activity. The brain's GPS turns off. Dissolving the sense of self and erasing the feeling that we are separate from the environment connects us to others and improves well-being. Awe makes us forget where we end and where the world begins. Some people are better at some things than others, like our daughter, our elder daughter, who in this picture was 11 and ruthlessly beating her older uncle at chess. Are some people better at awe? The answer to this question bothered me at first. Research actually has shown that some people are more likely to experience awe than others. This is called dispositional or trait awe. What are the rest of us supposed to do if we don't have a lot of dispositional awe? Are we doomed to be stuck in our default mode network forever? Fortunately, awe is not a competition, unlike chess. We can all learn to find awe in daily life. A daily diary study conducted in 23 cultures around the world showed that people experience awe 2 to 3 times a week. That's 100 times a year at least. Awe doesn't have to be rare. This is where I work, not when I'm not here, where I actually live. This is Columbia University Medical Center, and that is our awesome motto, amazing things are happening here. I was truly inspired as a physician and neurologist to learn the health effects of awe. We've talked about a lot of these today. Diminished sense of self, decreased activity of the DMN, increased parasympathetic and decreased sympathetic activity, decreased inflammation, increased oxytocin, and pro-social or positive social behaviors. All of these have been demonstrated to improve both physical and mental health. Because of these benefits, awe can be used as a tool for healing. Awe walks. A recent study showed in 60 to 90-year-olds taught self-guided awe walks. They were told to take 15-minute walks daily, somewhere new, for 8 weeks. They were given the instructions. Awe can be found almost anywhere, but it is most likely to occur in places that involve physical vastness and novelty. With those instructions, they were sent out to do awe walks and connect to their sense of wonder. What happened? People who took awe walks compared to ordinary walks reported progressively smaller self-images, greater joy, decreased daily distress, and more prosocial emotions. And they learned to do it themselves. Awe-based psychotherapy is now accepted by the American Association of Psychologists. There's, for example, one specific therapy called existential integrative therapy, which focuses on developing a sense of wonder and adventure and struggling against the part of ourselves that holds us back. Virtual reality, because of the awe experience it creates through immersive visual three-dimensional stimuli, can simulate vastness and challenge our way of thinking. VR is a powerful tool. It can be used in people in hospitals or other people who have limited access to the outside world. Psychedelics must be mentioned. Psychedelics, because of the mystical awe experiences they create, for example, like the mushroom extract, psilocybin, are potentially useful in treating treatment-resistant depression and post-traumatic stress disorder. The data is still out on whether they are fully safe and effective, and research is still needed to determine that, but there is some hope on this topic. What about chronic stress? A COVID-19 diary study during the height of the pandemic showed that people who experience more daily awe reported less stress, fewer negative physical symptoms, and greater well-being. Awe can help us survive and even thrive in situations of intense stress. What have we learned today? I find this very encouraging. Awe doesn't have to be expensive. It doesn't have to be dangerous. You don't have to travel to find it. You don't have to leave the earth, and you don't have to take psychedelics, so don't all leave and immediately start taking psychedelics. That will not be my fault. Awe is therapeutic. It's a fleeting experience with lasting effects. It makes rapid change possible. Often we experience it alone, but it makes us kinder to one another. With awe, the individual and the community both benefit. How does awe find us when we need it most? 25 years ago, my mother was diagnosed with an illness that I thought would end her life. Fortunately, she survived, and she gave me permission to tell this story. But at the time, I thought she was going to die. I was leaving the hospital in despair, walking down the street, and suddenly, for some reason, I looked up at the sky, and I saw the sun glinting through the trees, turning the leaves to gold. I did not think I would ever be able to find beauty again, but I did. That impossible coexistence of my misery and fear with joy in the beauty of the natural world was for me the miracle of awe. Poet Mary Oliver says, "Pay attention, be astonished, and tell about it." So now I'm telling you. Awe makes us want to tell our stories of hope and transformation. Awe dissolves the barriers that keep us from one another, alleviating loneliness and fostering connection and kindness. Awe connects us to the grandeur of the natural world, bringing light to our darkest times. The science of awe has brought us to this extraordinary moment. We know how to create awe and how to measure its positive effects on our bodies and brains, thoughts and actions. We know awe can be found every day and that we all can learn to find it. Awe has the power to heal and through us to help us heal the world. Thank you.